capacity is getting very tight, and anybody who has got capacity is the new king. So the cost of acquiring capacity is increasing, and naturally, when the cost of acquiring the new capacity increases, the sell price also increases. So in all, I think it's an upward trajectory. No, it's not that I would not go to the extent of saying that the airlines are creaming the market. Only the cost of acquisition is getting more expensive. Emirates always has been a market-oriented carrier. We tend to chase our customers, and we are generally positioned in places where our customers are based. Now, today, as we speak now, and if we divide the world into two, and we use Dubai as the center line, and we say east of Dubai is where a lot of manufacturing activity is happening, and we see a shift in the supply chains, shift in the manufacturing activity also. Now, we are very well positioned, and we already serve those markets. Now, it's only a question of ramping up capacity there, and we have already seen the shift of production to these markets. So we were we had the first mover advantage there. People trust, customers trust our product. They see the value offering. And I think all in all, it has been a good collaboration between where the cargo is and where we are positioned.
This is a new series of conversation we are recording from Air Cargo China in Shanghai. And with me in conversation today is Ravishankar Mirle. Ravishankar is the VP Cargo Commercial for Far East and Australasia at Emirates. Ravi, great to have you for this conversation.
Thank you, Reji. Thank you for having me over. Looking forward to good discussion with you.
Thanks, Ravi. Ravi, you are responsible for major market region that I'm sure contributing a significant portion to the overall revenue for Emirates SkyCargo. And you've been part of this organization for more than 3 decades. And specifically, you've been responsible for Far East for almost quarter of a century. Tell us some of the most recent and latest market trends for air cargo and for Emirates SkyCargo in this region.
To start off, in the Far East Australasia region, we have 15 countries. And these 15 countries generate about 35% of SkyCargo revenue. Each market is a huge production market. And at this point of time, Reji, the challenge which we had is if we had more freighters, we could fill it up. Demand is far outstripping supply, and that is the biggest challenge. Of course, these 15 markets tend to have its own type of cargo. Predominantly, the market is talking about e-commerce at this point of time. But having said that, these are not typical of every single market. We still manage to carry a lot of other types of air freightable commodities also.
Maybe I'll come back to probably the number of freighters, the assets that probably you would want to have in your fleet so that you can meet the increasing demand. But before I get into that, as I said, completed 32 years. Emirates is about 37 years, 38 years. 39 years. You will complete 40 years end of this year. But you've been part of this region for 25 years and you celebrated 32 years in this region. If I were to ask you to pick up some of the key highlights of the evolution of air cargo for Emirates SkyCargo and for these regions, what would be one or two of those highlights?
Over the years, it has been a great learning experience for me also. I've seen markets evolve. I've seen up times. I've seen down times. I think if there are a few takeaway points, the DNA of Emirates basically is reflective of our success. The importance of being agile, the importance of being customer-centric, the importance of delivering as promised. These are some of the highlights which I learned early in my life, and I think which have stood me by good stead even now. And as I spend time with my team, I keep telling them that, look, the DNA which has been ingrained in us, the technology might come, markets might get disrupted, economies could change, but the DNA should not change because that is what holds us together and that is what will take us to the future.
You know, airlines, cargo airlines like yours, they're always looking for what is the next commodity that could be carried. Because there are several commodities that are specifically meant for air freight. And sometimes you always think that it is the only high value, but sometimes it's also the low value goods that also get into the freighters as well, into the bellies of the passenger aeroplanes. E-commerce is one of them. Tell us about some of those commodities, cargo commodities, either coming into the Far East, going out of the Far East, and what is the change that you see in terms of the cargo commodities?
Right. If we divide the in the last 2 decades, big countries like big manufacturing hubs like say mainland China, they have been producing and distributing across the world. We've seen commodities ranging right from high tech to vulnerable goods to dangerous goods to machinery parts, pharmaceuticals, perishables, and the latest is basically e-commerce. In the past, air freight commodities were very, very predictable. But today, I guess the consumer is so empowered. The consumer need not be close to the manufacturing area. A case in point was a couple of years back, Reji, you'll remember the fidget spinners. Now, in the past, fidget spinners, nobody would have dreamt at that point of time that this is a commodity which will be moved by air. I mean, you're talking of a simple fidget spinner which we used to use when we were kids.
Yes.
But then that rocked the market. So I think at the end of the day, as they say, the consumer basically controls the demand, and depending upon what the consumer wants, I think the world gets dictated, and the actions tend to happen. And we in air transportation are basically a bridge between supply and demand, origin and destination. So that is where we play a big role in building markets, building trade, building market flows.
When you look at the trade balance or imbalance, where do you see in terms of the cargo coming into the Far East region and cargo going out of the Far East regions? Do you see that it's a well-maintained balance?
I would think industry-wise, generally the exports out of the East are definitely more than imports into the East. But we have a very typical problem because in our network, we tend to have from the East getting distributed via Dubai to the rest of the world. The rest of the world also has got a lot of cargo coming into the East, but we tend to focus more on Middle East and Africa region. And as a result, east of Dubai, inbound, we tend to see an imbalance, but that is only our own problem. I don't think there's a market problem. There is enough coming into the region. There are other carriers who tend to carry a lot into the East, but we don't do that.
Maybe you mentioned about capacity going to be a constraint in the run up to the last quarter of the year. Normally, that last quarter is the quarter normally that air cargo industry does well. It looks like the last quarter has already advanced, like already halfway through the year, and potentially you would see freight capacity constraint. And you, as you rightly said, that probably you would want to have like a couple of more freighters to carry this your cargo demand. What is your evaluation of the market in terms of as you run closer to the quarter four? If I'm going to find a lot of constraint on the supply side.
We are extremely bullish over the market right now. Traditionally, June, July has always been the so-called lean season, but nobody's seeing a lean season right now. And we believe there is going to be a capacity squeeze in the traditional fourth quarter. And I think the market is getting up for that. The fact that the number of freely available freighters are limited, demand is far outstripping supply. So it is going to be a tight squeeze.
Is that going to be also a pressure on the freight rates as well?
Definitely, because you see, it's a vicious cycle. Capacity is getting very tight, and anybody who has got capacity is the new king. So the cost of acquiring capacity is increasing, and naturally, when the cost of acquiring the new capacity increases, the sell price also increases. So in all, I think it's an upward trajectory. No, it's not that I would not go to the extent of saying that the airlines are creaming the market. Only the cost of acquisition is getting more expensive.
Well, let's talk about the China +1, +2, or +3, how you look at. Basically, it's about the diversification of production to multiple locations across several countries. And particularly in this particular region, you are not responsible for China, you are responsible for the Far East. There are several countries have become alternate location for production and manufacturing for global companies. And as a result, you have procurement sourcing from different places. What does the future look like for Emirates SkyCargo as the production diversification happens on the manufacturing side?
Emirates always has been a market-oriented carrier. We tend to chase our customers, and we are generally positioned in places where our customers are based. Now, today, as we speak now, and if we divide the world into two, and we use Dubai as the center line, and we say east of Dubai is where a lot of manufacturing activity is happening, and we see a shift in the supply chains, shift in the manufacturing activity also. Now, we are very well positioned, and we already serve those markets. Now, it's only a question of ramping up capacity there, and we have already seen the shift of production to these markets. So we were we had the first mover advantage there. People trust, customers trust our product. They see the value offering. And I think all in all, it has been a good collaboration between where the cargo is and where we are positioned. So that is acting as a strong launching pad for us to move forward. And I would just like to extend this a bit more, particularly in the China context. We also have the Belt and Road Initiative. The One Belt, One Road Initiative basically spans over 100 plus countries. And at this point of time, Emirates has got a presence in 51 countries. Using Dubai as a gateway, we are able to connect China with most of the countries in the Belt and Road Initiative, which I think is possibly one of the catalysts of trade in the future. So these are just examples of where we position ourselves to be in line and be ready for the future.
No, one of the highlights of Emirates SkyCargo also is about how innovative they are in terms of being a multimodal air-to-sea, sea-to-air product. In the case of Red Sea crisis, you all of a sudden see the sea freight moving into Dubai and getting onto freighters from Dubai to different parts of the world. And I think going forward, that's going to be a geopolitics and going to play a significant role in terms of how your supply chains are created and evolved. Do you see that you are in Emirates SkyCargo is in a better position to create products which are of multimodal in nature?
Yes. The short answer is yes. The long answer is basically because it is very well aligned to the D33 strategy of Dubai. The D33 strategy of Dubai basically talks of making Dubai the logistics capital of the world, talks about doubling the trade volumes through Dubai. Now, for this, you definitely need a good airline to support it. You need good seaports to have ships calling in. In addition to that, you need land transportation and air transportation. UAE has also embarked on a big railway freight corridor, which basically spawns over the country. And eventually, the big picture is to go across to Europe.
Yeah.
So I think these are all pockets of activities which are happening. But when you connect them together, you get to see the big picture. So all in all, I think in alignment with the D33 strategy also, Emirates is ready to offer multimodal solutions. And that is where we are trying to build various product offerings because air freight predominantly has been time to market, speed to market. But there is a section of customers who would possibly compromise on speed and time. And for them, we would like to offer a different range of products.
Ravi, if you look at 20 years back, people who are not ordering online, maybe 25 years, people started ordering. I think Amazon and Alibaba's, they kind of spoiled each one of us in terms of how fast you want to get the stuff done, how cheap that you would like to purchase things online. You created a kind of, you've been pampered by them to have things ordered today and get it delivered yesterday. That's a kind of, but then consumers, they are not willing to pay for those kind of premium services. But this is something that is changing over a period of time. What is your observation about the growing trends of B2B to B2C e-commerce fulfillment models? We have seen it from Alibaba. Now there are brands like Shein and Temu disrupting the e-retail models. What are your observation of the changing e-retail models and how the deliveries, fulfillment, logistics sectors support them?
No, I think the way possibly to picturize this is, look, I think this is going to stay. Whether you call it e-commerce, whether you call it mobile commerce, this is going to continue.
All called social commerce and quick commerce.
Yes, those are the new terminologies which people talk about. It will continue. Now, again, if you go back in time, if you have to look at the evolvement, possibly in the 60s and the 70s, or even the early 80s also, there was this thing called catalog shopping, where people would look at catalogs and say, okay, I want this, and then there would be garments and all going across to places like Lille in France, and from there it would get distributed. These are all catalog shopping, and now that catalog shopping literally has become digital shopping.
Yeah.
So, and what it has done is basically unlock the potential of what trade and commerce can be, because previously the sourcing and the location of the manufacturing facility was very important. It had to be very close to the real market. Whereas today, there's no concept of a real market. Anybody sitting anywhere can order, and things can go from anywhere to anywhere. So, and I think that the ease of convenience, as you rightly said, is going to spur a lot of interest. And I think the younger generation particularly are tuned to this. And I only see more and more growth happening. The platforms might change, the names might change, the brands might change, but I think the modus operandi would basically be very different to what we have seen in the last decade.
Yeah, I also want to ask you to reflect on some of the specific initiatives by Emirates SkyCargo, whether it's from the strategic point of view or from the technology side or from how you recruit people, the new talent that you would want to have within the organization in order to prepare Emirates SkyCargo to take advantage of the, I don't know, new kind of commodities that probably would come into the market. Today you're talking about semiconductor going to be a big portion of air freight market. Machines meant to produce those semiconductors. You're talking about huge demand for artificial intelligence products. You've seen NVIDIA becoming the $3+ trillion market capitalization company. What would be some of your wish list or some of your strategies that you would want the Emirates SkyCargo to be prepared for that future of freight for Emirates SkyCargo?
Traditionally, in terms of air freight, we used to talk about general cargo, mail, and express/courier. But I think over a period of time, this has got commoditized, and we also seen the benefit of splitting the world general cargo into specific segments. Pharma and perishable is very well established. Then comes the valuable and the vulnerable segments. When we say vulnerable, we are talking of high-tech items. But in addition to that, there are new verticals emerging. In pharma itself, pharma could be medicines only. It could be generic drugs. But now we are trying to go deeper into it to see that how do we distinguish medical drugs versus medical devices. These medical devices also need sophisticated handling. The tilt and balance of the equipments can get altered if you don't handle them properly. So as a result, we are now identifying segments which need customized solutions. We are identifying the standard operating procedures which need to go to deliver this kind of a product offering. And more importantly, skills have to be changed, because the type of technical skills which are required to service those kind of products. You're very right in saying that the chip manufacturing machines historically have moved on a 747s.
Yep.
Now, it is quite possible that in the next couple of years, if they may have to, the chip manufacturers might have to, the machine manufacturers might have to change to fit them into a 777. Obviously, the airline industry has to get ready for this kind of stuff, and this is where we are working on.
The final question: you're part of a big market. How many more freighters do you need? I'm sure that you must be fighting with Nadeem for more freighters to this region. How many do you operate?
Today, we operate 36 freighters out of Hong Kong alone. Mainland China, we operate 13 freighters a week. We operate freighters into Vietnam and Japan and Taiwan. The short answer is we can fill in as many as you can give us. But I think the real answer is basically this market has got tremendous amount of potential, and the factories of the world are in this region. If at all, if we have to build markets, if we have to build new trade flows, this is the place to be in. The beauty of this region also is it not only helps us develop the freighter network, but because we are a passenger carrier, we also got very hungry bellies. And I do remember Ram Menon used to always say, passenger flights are freighters in disguise. And he was absolutely right. You're talking about 23, 25 tons on the freighter. So whatever we generate out of the east tends to not only feed the freighter network, it also feeds the passenger bellies. And that combination is extremely important for the success of the airline.
Ravi, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Really, thank you for the opportunity, and all the best to you.
Thank you very much, Reji. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. Much appreciated.